Virtual Warriors episode 431.
Woo!
As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human being Chris Saturn.
We're seconds into this, and I'm exhausted.
Also, our producer Guy is here.
Yay! No, it's not actually delayed. I just waited a second.
Oh my God. Don't fucking do
Why
that.
would you do that to us?
That's not funny. So as far as housekeeping, Guy's internet has been really up and down.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that it holds out throughout the episode, but if you notice that Guy suddenly kind of stops responding to stuff and then isn't in the back half of the episode, we're not ignoring him.
No.
His internet just goofed,
Hey,
and he's trying to fix it.
My
Guy, is
gameplay
your-
opinions are invalid. It's fine.
Yeah, that is the case.
Is your internet based on 2 tin cans and a string?
I mean, it's T-Mobile, so maybe.
Oh, then yes. All right.
So yeah, just in case Guy ends up being a little off kilter or just silent for huge portions of
Right.
the show, that's what has occurred.
My internet gets better or worse depending on where in the house the router is placed. So it's not like
well,
the
it's
most
T-Mobile,
stable
so that
thing.
makes sense, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's cellular, so
Yeah.
strap it to the roof. You know.
Well, then I got to put it in like a weatherproof box.
Yeah, but those are cheap, and you just drill a hole in the bottom. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. My week. I put in 15 hours of Stardew Valley. I think. I
Okay.
put in a good amount. I talked about it a little bit on a recent Talking Wizards, but I think I picked up the Fan Gamer guidebook and a physical copy of the game for my wife because I thought she would enjoy it. And then she was playing it, so I started playing it. And I think I finally have kind of clicked with it. It has taken a number of years and multiple tries, but I think I'm finally really kind of enjoying it and having a really good time with it. And I still have my issues with it. Like, the fishing is fucking impossible.
Well, that describes every game.
No, it doesn't, Saturn. Some games
does.
have good fishing.
No,
like Link's
that's not
Awakening has the best fishing. That's the best fishing game.
But, yeah, but the best fishing in a video game is like the tastiest turd.
Sega Bass Fishing is pretty fun.
No, it's not.
What else had good fishing? Guy, what else had good fishing?
I mean, Sea of Stars was okay.
No.
I didn't like that fishing. No, I didn't. We'll talk about it later.
That's also true.
So yeah, I've clicked with it enough, and I've put in enough time now that while I'm not sure I agree yet, I do understand why people kind of regard it as the ultimate farming lifestyle game. Like I'm not there yet, but I think I'm seeing it. I'm starting to really kind of understand, because a problem the genre always has is that it expects you to do these things, like go to festivals and find a wife and or a husband and like woo somebody and like do all this other shit, but you still have to like run a fucking farm.
Right.
And in the beginning of the game, the routine is fun, but eventually the routine gets boring, and you're like, all right, I know what I'm doing. I've done a couple years. Now I want to go pursue the other things, but you do so to the detriment of making any money because you have to run a farm.
Could you imagine if that's how real farmers had to live their life?
It would be awful.
If they had to actually run their farm while they also tried to live a life, that's just impossible.
And winter is always kind of the natural break in these games when you can't farm unless you have a greenhouse. But in this game, it's pretty centered around you being able to automate huge portions of your farming stuff after you've done it enough. And I know some of the other games, like the sprites in Harvest Moon, some of the Harvest Moons can like help you do that stuff. But it's real slick, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm glad that I finally found time to click with it and have a good time with it. Saturn, what have you been playing?
Well, our game club game for this month is we have 2. We did the spooky and the not spooky for
Yes.
Halloween month.
And then picked 2 spooky games. I don't
We did
understand.
not.
I don't understand what happened.
So for our spooky game, we did Silent Hill, which I am replaying, which I always love Silent Hill. I feel like it has aged better than some of those other PS1 horror games.
Yeah.
Mostly because they didn't do the pre-rendered backgrounds with the fully rendered
Yes.
foreground. Everything is fully rendered, which means it all equally looks like butt.
Stuff doesn't look like weird Looney Tunes cartoon cutouts
Right.
where you know what's going to move or be
Yeah.
interactable.
Exactly. But it has some of the worst voice acting, which I love. It's charming bad voice acting.
Yeah.
And it fits the eerie, unworldly vibe of the game. But I just love, because it's not just that the voice acting is pretty weird and off-putting. It's also that the writing is bad, because it's the whole game is in English, but it's written by people who don't speak English natively. But they wrote it first in English and then translated it back to Japanese based on what they wanted it to have said. And so like the key signature item in Silent Hill is your radio, because it makes noise whenever there's an enemy nearby, so that you know that there's an enemy somewhere in the area.
Yeah.
And the very first time you see the radio in the very first Silent Hill, it's sitting on the other side of a diner, and it starts making some static, and Harry says, "Huh? Radio? What's up with that radio?" And it's just some of the most brilliant dialogue delivery that's ever happened. But anyway, it's still fun. And then the other game that we chose was the non-spooky game, is Kid Dracula.
I don't know what you think is not spooky about Dracula, Saturn.
It's a Kid Dracula, Justin.
Kid vampires still kill people.
Well, yeah, but mostly Klansmen.
Yeah, there is a Klansman in the game.
There is a Klansman in the game, which is
It's a good vampire. I don't. What's your problem here?
Right? Yeah, I guess if there was going to be one, that is what you would want to happen.
Exactly.
So I guess it all kind of works out.
He's like the Dexter of vampires.
Is it supposed to be a ghost?
I don't know. He has a manji on his head, which only makes it more concerning.
Yes, the unfortunate use of the manji.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, he's wearing a white hood. I don't know what
and after you attack the first one, it goes crying away, and then its bigger, badder Klansman shows up to defend it. It's just a very strange interaction, Japan.
I have a lot of jokes I want to make, but I won't.
Right.
I have many jokes I want to make right now.
But no, it's still fun. I still enjoy Kid Dracula. It's a fun little game, and if you haven't played it, you should. And then also, what's that?
It's on the collection, Castlevania collection.
That's true. It is on the Castlevania collection. That's actually where I was playing it. And then also, I am again trying to see if I can get into a Persona game.
Which one are you trying?
Yes.
So
I have 3, 4, and 5 on my Xbox, so I gave each one a little bit of a try.
Oh, no. You just played a little bit of each Persona?
Well, I figured I would get as far as the first battle just to see what I was feeling about the world and the vibe.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that all of them want you to sit through like an hour of dialogue before your first battle.
There's a little lead up.
Except for 5. 5 throws you into battle pretty quick because it starts in media res.
It does.
Which is a little nicer. But man, 3 was pretty bad. But 4, man, that's a long wait before you encounter anything. I don't know if I'm going to click with any of them. I have tried so many times to click. Since the first one came out on PS1, I've been trying to click with the Persona franchise. It's never hit me, but I want to see what it is that people love about it. I don't think I'm ever going to get there.
I've put 30 to 40 hours in both Personas 4 and 5, which means I'm nowhere near done with them.
Right.
But enjoyed them both. 3 was a little too repetitious. Even 4, it gets a little repetitive.
The current version of 3 is the port of the PSP version, which took away a lot of the game.
Yeah, that's
from
the one
combat.
I played anyway, because I'd played it on Vita.
Yeah, and that is already less of a game than the original was.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would make it any better for me. Maybe I should try the PS2 version again.
I think Persona 5 is kind of lauded as the easiest one to get into. I think that's the one where people.
And I'm like 20 hours into that on my PS4, and then promptly put it away and never touched it again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those games where when I'm playing it, I'm having a really good time. And then I'll put it down and do other things, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I was playing Persona.
Yep.
Like I forget I was playing it.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Guy, what have you been playing?
A lot of Magic, I guess.
What's that?
It's a game. Well,
I see.
It's a card game, but you don't agree with that.
So
exactly.
You play games with cards is what you're telling me. Like,
well, I was playing on the computer, so it's,
Well, I thought you said it was a video game. So I don't understand. What do you mean? Like Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, it's like Yu-Gi-Oh. with worse resources and less damage.
The Doctor Who set is coming out soon. You excited about that?
I am excited about that. I think that's physical only. And it's mostly Commander decks, so
I think it's all Commander decks, isn't it? They weren't doing a set, were they?
I don't know. You might be right about that. It might be all Commander decks, but I thought that they were also selling some sort of like boosters to go with them.
I haven't like actively played the game in years now, so I just possibly.
You said Doctor Who, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
I
you
did.
did.
Oh, okay. All right. For some reason, at first, my brain processed it as Dr. Seuss.
I
play
would
the
kill
shit out
for
of
a
that.
Dr. Seuss magic. That would be awesome.
I really want to see Dr. Seuss magic.
I would get right back into it, man.
Again, like legendary
hell yes.
Cat in the Hat Planeswalker,
Oh yeah.
right? Yeah.
The places it would go.
They have. So they're Saturn. You don't know this, but they're doing what they call Universes Beyond, which means they're taking non-Magic the Gathering properties and making Magic the Gathering sets out of them. And they've done it. They've done Warhammer. They've done Lord of the Rings. They've done Doctor Who. They have a Street Fighter one lined up, I think.
Yeah.
They did another one.
They did D&D. They did Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, I guess I just considered that. Yeah, it's still like Western style fantasy owned by Hasbro, so like it was similar enough in my head that I didn't really separate it. But you're right, it is distinctly different than the Magic the Gathering mythology.
Yeah, I don't know if they added Forgotten Realms to the mythos of the planes or not, but yeah.
I don't know either, and the line is blurry anyway because they've released Magic the Gathering themed stuff for D&D, so it just it gets blurry. It's a real blurry line there.
Yeah, like you have like on Arena, you've got your little icon that represents you or whatever.
Yeah,
and they sell the characters from Baldur's Gate as ones you can pick.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. I've been trying to learn Limited, or Draft specifically. Yeah,
I thought you already played Draft. That's what you've been playing for like a long time.
Yeah, I've been trying to learn it for like a year, and I'm finally at a point where I feel like I'm kind of decent at it.
Oh, I never like learned Draft. I just learned Bread, and I do that.
Well, I don't know what that is. It's not an option on Arena.
Bread is?
No.
You learn. Okay, so Bread is a drafting strategy.
No, bread is a foodstuff, so it's made out of wheat.
But it's also an acronym.
Like
and you can make bread out of things other than wheat,
something.
such as barley bread. Anyway, it's the order you should pick cards in. So bombs removal, the other thing, removal, and then dirt.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I forget it, but that's when I was drafting that. I just learned bread, and I just did that.
Wait, the removal shows up again at the end?
No, I don't know. I don't remember. Because there's not an R in the end of bread.
Because if so, that would be Breard.
It's Breard. Now, I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's an acronym, and if you follow that, and then you follow the correct number of lands, there's math you can do for it, and then I just always did that. But I'm also not very good at draft.
I think that style is a little outdated at this point.
But I see. We're insulting each other now.
No, I'm just saying. It's I think the sort of meta game for drafting has evolved a bit in the understanding and the sets in general are different than they were.
I've never liked draft. I was always sealed or constructed, and that's what I enjoyed.
Yeah, well, I bought 2 boxes of the latest set, and Pablo's coming over tomorrow, and
I'm sad. I was going to come over, but my wife's going to the Taylor Swift movie event concert thing.
Yeah. I'm excited because
she has.
That means that he and Andrew are probably going to sleeve like 12 packs worth of cards for me. So great.
She's had to buy clothing for it, and she has to take props, and she's had to learn call and responses and chants for it. And I'm like, this sounds an awful lot like Saturn
Rocky.
and his Rocky Horror Picture Show stuff. I was like, this is weird, and the chants are weird, and they don't make sense. And what's weird to me is Rocky Horror Picture Show developed that over time. Yeah, this is like, this movie isn't out yet. Nobody has seen it. Well, it came out today, I guess. And before it happened, everyone's like already come up with all of this meta stuff to do in the theaters.
That's become a thing. Several movies have done that in the last several years. Most notably was Repo, the Genetic Opera.
I remember that.
The director of that not only encouraged Shadowcasts to form around it, but started giving initial like callback lines and scripts and props and recommendations to them as the movie released, which feels weird and inorganic.
It does. It does.
I would
but let's
guess
do the
that.
news.
Hold on,
What?
real quick. I would
No,
guess
okay,
that some of
yeah.
it has to do with the fact that it's a movie of her current concert tour, which has been going on.
Oh, yeah, I didn't
that
think
makes
about that.
sense,
So
yeah.
maybe there is already call and response stuff from the concerts.
Yeah.
That
makes
people have
more
already
sense.
worked out. Also, the whole like marketing machine behind Taylor Swift is insanely smart. So it would not shock me at all if they were like, "This is a thing that we should do," and then they did it. You know,
I could not tell you a single song. that
Dude, Taylor Swift is so big that she is like pulling up ratings for NFL games for a specific team because she's dating one of the players and goes to the games.
I commend her for that, and I am
If-
glad
if
she's
That's
successful. But I
insane.
could not tell you a single song she
I didn't think I could, and then Courtney played some, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I've heard some of those like in Target, and like they sounded familiar." You know, so yeah.
I'm not a
Anyway,
Swiftie, but I enjoy some Tay Tay. That's all I'm saying.
Oh wow. Is that what
is
they
that a
say now?
breakfast
Is that
thing?
Yeah, can I get some Tay-Tay and eggs? I need to get some.
I prefer Tay Tay Tots.
That's
I don't
what
know
you
why
call
Sonic
kid
hasn't
Swift
started
fans.
this cross promotion. Tay-Tay Tots. Let's do the news.
Uh-huh.
First up, former Metal Slug developers and habitual bad name namers have announced a spiritual successor to Metal Slug called Blackfinger Jet.
That's such a dumb name.
It is the dumbest name. The game looks awesome.
Oh yeah, it looks amazing. Yeah.
But is the stupidest possible name. And really, I think we're just accustomed to Metal Slug.
Yeah. It's also
kind
a
of-
dumb
it's-
name.
It's not Blackfinger Jet goofy
Right.
because
No,
like,
it's not that dumb.
it makes sense in the context of you're shooting guns
Right.
and a slug like from a gun. They call them slugs sometimes,
Sure,
bullets. I
sometimes,
don't
I
know.
guess.
I feel like
It kinda makes
Blackfinger
some-
Jet is the blood that spurts out after you cut off a frostbitten finger.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
That's your Blackfinger's jet.
that's dark.
Well, yeah.
But it looks really fun. I'm very excited for it. We don't
Frostbite.
get enough good Metal Slug style running guns, and
Yeah,
I want
definitely.
more of them.
I agree.
SNK versus Capcom has been ported by fans to the C64 for some reason.
You know, did you look at the video of it?
No,
It looks pretty good. It looks pretty close to the Neo Geo Pocket Color original.
really? It's shocking.
Unfortunately, the Commodore 64, for people who didn't use the Commodore 64, uses Atari controllers. Mm-hmm. So that means you have one button. So you have to use the keyboard for some of your inputs.
Oh, that sounds fun.
That's
So,
fantastic.
so I don't know if I want to play it, but I'm very impressed with the technical ability of the people that ported it. Just
Yes.
like very well
Good
done.
on them.
Right?
Nintendo will be discontinuing all online services for the Wii U and 3DS in April 2024. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you later. Thanks for playing.
How many games are going to
Bye-bye.
be useless now?
Lots.
Yeah.
Lots of. Well, not lots of Wii U games because it's the Wii U. And nobody played it. I feel
So
like-
that does mean that the original version of Dragon Quest X, which was Wii exclusive, you can't play that anymore. And then the upgraded version, which for a brief flash in a pan was Wii U exclusive, can't play that anymore either. Fortunately, it's since been ported to fucking everything else. So it's
Guy,
okay,
did you
but-
buy a Wii U?
Yeah, I've got one hooked up right now. My kids love it.
Nice.
Man, how statistically anomalous that 3 Wii U owners have convened.
I own
Strange.
2 Wii U's. So
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
I think there are 4 Wii U's between the three of us.
Man, so I feel like sometimes we forget how statistically anomalous we are in the market, and I think that statement is a good reminder of the fact that we are not representative
Do I
of
own two-
anything normal.
Do I own 2 Wii U's or 2 Wii's U?
It would be
Wii U's.
whatever you want because no one cared about the Wii.
It's
Hey,
dead now.
The three of us did, obviously.
Right, yeah, we were the audience, the entire audience.
5 former Ubisoft executives are arrested regarding sexual harassment investigation that was done by a union.
Good.
Which
Or at
is
least prompted by the union, I believe.
well, yeah, the union prompted it. They sent in the complaints, and then the authorities did the investigation. My mistake. And I want to remind everybody that this is after Ubisoft did their own investigation, and yet they turned over no evidence to the authauthorities.
So
How
weird.
strange is that? Isn't that weird?
I wonder why they couldn't find anything.
They said that they would thoroughly investigate everything, and there were firings had.
Yeah.
And so it kind of seems like they had potential evidence of sex crimes and didn't tell the authorities. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Justin, are you implying that Ubisoft would have covered up that?
I know. I'm equally shocked that executives are held to a different standard than us. I've never heard of this.
Bizarre. Unheard of.
Good on the union for turning the information over, especially because doing that. I mean, that has to paint a target on their back.
Also good
right?
on the French authorities for acting
sure
on it.
for following through on it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, if somebody comes
Ubisoft-
at them with like a white feather, they know to run, so it's fine.
Ubisoft has also added Denuvo to their new Ass Creed game after reviews went live. Oh, hey, you remember Ubisoft? Those people that didn't find evidence of sex crimes to turn over to the authorities? They're also fucking us in legal ways.
Oh, how
Isn't
nice
that
of them.
nice?
Wait, for us dum-dums, what's de nouveau?
Denuvo
It is digital rights management software to prevent piracy, supposedly. But the pirates typically crack it within a day of the game's release.
Sometimes
and two,
less.
Yeah, sometimes less. And two, there have been repeated incidents of games that have Denuvo running significantly worse than the pirated versions of the same games. So paid customers end up with a worse performing product than the pirates do.
Oh, yeah, that sounds super dumb. Good job, guys.
Yeah. And they added it after the reviews went live so that the reviewers wouldn't either notice any detrimental effects or mention it.
Yeah. Animal Crossing Lego sets announced. I didn't catch this news until literally just now on the teleprompter, and I'm very excited suddenly out of nowhere.
Did you look at the pictures yet?
No, I literally, this is me learning about it right now.
You have
Well,
a
while you're
teleprompter?
Exciting.
Yeah, I don't know, right? We must be getting much better Patreon money than I realized.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
spin it all in this teleprompter. What?
So while Guy and I are discussing this, why don't you look up the pictures right now so that you
I'm
can
looking
see
right now,
what
yeah,
it looks
I'm
like?
Going. All right.
Guy, did you see this?
No, I didn't. I'm kind of excited myself. I like Lego things.
All right, it's very adorable. I'll say that. Nintendo and Lego released a video.
Oh, fuck.
This grown-ass man's reaction. Oh, fuck.
Well, that wouldn't be a little boy's reaction.
I hope.
Let's not jump to any conclusions. Captain's Island boat tour?
Yeah, my kid might
Nook's Cranny?
say, oh, fuck.
Oh, fuck. Isabel's house visit? Oh, my God.
Pretty
It's so much money.
Could, you mean will.
Bro, Lego is expensive.
It is.
It's expensive as shit.
They're
Right, but
coming
your,
on
your
March
family
1st.
makes the big bucks money. You can just spend it all you want.
We make better money.
It looks like Nook's Cranny is going to be $75. Isabel's house will be $40. Captain's Island boat tour will be $30. Bunny's outdoor activities is $20, and Julian's birthday party is $15.
So that's about $200 for all of them.
I don't math.
No, I was doing it in my head. It's about $200. I was reserving it in my bank account as you were saying that. That's cool. I'm excited for that. I didn't ever pick up the Mario sets, but I love Animal Crossing.
It looks like about 180 total. So yeah, close to
Very
200.
excited for that. So that'll be cool. Night Dive Studios CEO considers a Patreon subscription to get mods that fix/update classic games that they can't get the rights to.
I'm conflicted on this because
Yeah.
one, Night Dive does excellent work, and they've done a great job of fixing several older games to make them playable and feel slightly more modernized than their original forms.
Right.
And two, some of the games they mentioned, they're never ever going to get the rights to. They're either tied up in 1,000 companies or nobody knows who owns them or whatever. I get it, but for a commercial studio that sells a product to then start a Patreon account so that they can mod things that they don't own feels I feel like a hammer's going to fall somewhere in there, right?
Yeah, well, I think, like, conceptually, I don't think it's a bad idea.
No.
I think...
But I fear that it is in such a legal gray area that it almost becomes a legal black area.
I think that in practice, it's a bad idea on both the legal front and the patron front because your patrons are going to expect you to do stuff, and sometimes these business dealings, while they cost money, provide no fruit. You know, they'll talk for months and months and months back and forth.
Oh, no, they've already said they will not get the rights to these games. They're just going to make mods and release them without any rights.
Oh, okay, so they're just fan mods. So they're just charging for fan mods?
Yes, for professionally made fan mods.
So that's upsetting to me. But also, there's not really a good way to sell mods.
True.
Like, if there was an easy way to sell your own fan mods on Steam for a game, I'd be like, this is fucking bullshit. But yeah, I don't know. Like,
but also, once they have released them to their patrons, what's to stop everyone else from uploading them to mod sites?
Well, I could get into the nature of the legal agreement that people agreeing to Patreon campaigns go into, and it is usually that you are not necessarily guaranteed a product, and it's this whole thing where it is a donation, and you're not purchasing a good, and blah 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 blah. But I think legally they get away with it.
Yeah.
I'm also there where something about this kind of makes my skin crawl, and I don't know what it is.
Right.
I have to think about it more. Oh, hold on. I've gotten a response from my wife. Oh, she said cute. I thought she'd be more excited. I thought she would also go, oh, fuck. I sent her the Animal Crossing Lego.
Maybe in her head she went, oh, fuck.
Again, that's a grown man's response.
Your wife is not a grown man, sir.
Telltale may have laid off much of its staff again. Paradox Interactive looks to have also laid off much of their staff, specifically including, there was lumped in with that was someone I cared a lot about, and I was very upset, and I've forgotten which. It was some smaller company that I was like, no, not them. That is stupid. Y'all are dumb. But yeah, there's one of those that I was.
What was it?
Harebrained Schemes, Harebrained Schemes, the BattleTech and Shadowrun Returns people. So, fuck you, Paradox.
And then Telltale, they had already gone under once, and their rights were bought out by this new company that is going by Telltale, and now they have laid off much of their staff. It sounds like at least 3/4 of their staff.
Yes.
So I'm worried that we are currently entering a market.
Recession?
Well, I don't know that it's a recession so much as a market where a lot of these medium-sized studios are struggling to make any money, and the extra large studios are bloating themselves so much that they're not going to release anything. So fortunately, we still have some indies here to pick up slack, but I'm still a little worried about the direction of things.
I think we obviously I can only talk about the video game market because it's the only market that I actually know, but
care about.
I feel like we're coming into a lot more consolidation.
Yeah.
A lot more consolidation as people are struggling and things are getting gobbled up at the first opportunity.
Right.
Anyway, Epic will change the Unreal Engine pricing to charge per user for non-game studios.
So they saw Unity change their pricing, and they were like, oh shit, we could have done that this whole time?
We could have screwed people this entire time? Yeah. So I feel like it's so old hat to even complain about Epic anymore. I was looking to buy Homeworld, the
Which
Deserts of Caracas or whatever.
Yeah.
They bought the studio, and now the Steam version of Homeworld forces you to install the Epic Games Launcher.
Oh, fuck that.
To launch a game that had existed before the Epic Games Launcher existed. So that's a nice thing that they did.
Really frustrating to me.
Yeah, because I was looking at RTSs today. Former Bungie HR manager fired for reporting potential racial bias is suing for wrongful termination. Man, this just looks terrible all over, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Man. And then finally, Nintendo M6 demo unit found, and it's selling on eBay.
I remember seeing these in stores back in the 80s. These are really cool. I don't know if you have seen it or if you saw the news article on this or not.
I saw the article, and it looks... I've never seen one of them.
Yeah. That used to be the standard demo in a lot of stores. And specifically, this one that was found is interesting just because some of the games on it are pre-release versions of games that were made for these demo units.
Yeah.
So they don't have the exact same... It's close enough to the final version, but not exactly the same.
Right.
But I always thought those things looked super cool. And looking at it now in retrospect, it kind of looks gross.
I went to see what it's selling for right now. It's at 31 bids. It is currently at $3,850.
That's less than I thought it would be, honestly.
Well, it's also got almost 2 days left.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And as we all know, I bet you it
those
goes
last
for
few
at
months.
least double or triple that. I mean, it's going to
Right.
hit 10. I think it'll hit 10.
Yeah, I
I
can
think
see
it'll
that.
definitely hit 10 for sure. We'll see what happens.
Still not as
if you're
much as
listening to this,
Mario.
then do what?
Said still
Yeah,
not as much as Mario.
Is that VGA graded Mario?
That definitely wasn't a scam. Which brings us to our topic at hand. This week we're talking Sea of Stars, which is why
How
Kelly's
does
here.
definitely not a scam bring us to this topic?
It does.
Sea
it's
of
definitely
scams.
not a scam.
Obviously.
Sea of scams.
every gameplay option is a scam.
For synopsis, it's retro. Just look at the blocky graphics.
Who would want any of these old blocky graphics?
Scope-wise, this is going to be a two-parter. This is a pretty big, long RPG, so we're going to be splitting it up. We're going to try to put the entirety of story and spoilers in the second episode,
Yep.
but there will be some things spoiled in the gameplay side because it necessitates us talking about certain characters that
Right.
you will not have at the beginning of the game.
Right. But we will try to
and-
keep it as vague as possible.
And the game just came out, so any updates, DLC, sequels, announcements, anything like that, we aren't aware of at this juncture. So
Right.
we kind of jumped on this one pretty fast after it came out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So this is your first spoiler warning. You will get general spoilers throughout this episode. Next episode, there will be another spoiler warning, and then an extreme spoiler warning near the end.
Yeah.
So you will be...
That's when Justin gets his skateboard out.
Yeah, and I do a kickflip and break my ankle. So just be aware, this is your spoiler warning right now. This is it. Spoilers abound ahead.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to hear them, just don't hear them. Go play the game, and then you can hear 'em.
Close your ears.
You just need to
plug your
say
ears.
spoiler alert after every or before every
Yes,
spoiler.
that'll be
Yeah, after
great.
every spoiler.
Anyway, as far as release information, this was developed and published by Sabotage Studio, released on August 29th, 2023. Digital, physical is still 2024 by I Am 8-Bit. I also saw they had some dealings with
LRG.
Limited Run.
Yeah,
I don't-
before the game's release, it was announced that LRG was going to publish the physical, and then about a month or so before release, that switched to I Am 8-Bit. LRG still had some input on it. I don't know exactly what it is. They're still listed in the credits, but I Am 8-Bit is going to be publishing the physical release.
Yeah. I absolutely was, as far as First Encounters, not following this game. I really enjoyed The Messenger, but I couldn't complete it. Like, I wasn't skilled enough to complete it.
Yeah.
And so I really loved the game. I think it was my game of the year that
Did you
year.
try cheating?
I played it on Switch.
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
problem. You can't cheat
yeah.
on Switch.
Yeah. And so, really loved The Messenger, but couldn't complete it. So I was like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe their games aren't for me. Like, I really loved the game, but I really would like to be able to finish it. And then it hit Kickstarter. I saw that it looked very JRPG, and I was like, I love like every other JRPG, and the ones in between I hate. So I wasn't following it. I wasn't gonna pick it up. I wasn't planning on it at all. And then when it came out, it was right in the middle of me playing Chrono Cross, and I was kind of in that RPG mood, and so I did Chrono Cross and then Baldur's Gate, and then I was like, I guess I'll try Sea of Stars. Everyone seems to be enjoying it so much. And then I played it. And here I
just
am.
barreled through it.
I really did. It was basically in 2 large play sessions.
Yeah.
Is how I played through this game. Saturn, what about you?
I had kickstarted it because I really enjoyed The Messenger, and so I wanted to see what they would. And also, I enjoy JRPGs, and they said it was a JRPG, love letter to Chrono Trigger. That's also a game that I like.
Yeah.
And my favorite parts of The Messenger were the presentation and the storytelling, and you don't need to be the same genre of game for that. So I was excited to see what they're going to do in the RPG space.
Right.
And so I kickstarted it. Then a couple days before the digital release, they emailed me to say, hey, we won't be able to have your physical version until next year, so we're giving you a code for a free digital copy. Tell us which platform you want. And then I got my copy, and I played it.
Yeah. What about you, Guy?
I played 2 hours of The Messenger. So I don't know. I sort of enjoyed it. It was kind of cool, but it was kind of hard, and I stopped trying. And when this started coming out, or like when it started coming towards the release, I was like, oh, that might be interesting. I might check it out. And then like the day it hit Game Pass, I started playing and didn't stop until I was finished.
Yeah. I remember. I think it was the first day that it was out that you had mentioned in the Discord that you were only getting diamond achievements for everything all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. So you knew that you had played so much that you'd gotten further than everyone else playing the game.
Yeah, no, I was getting diamond achievements like I think it was either right before or right after like the boss of the first island.
Okay, yeah.
Right, like it was just like all of a sudden it was like, hey, you did a normal ass achievement that only 2% of people have done.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's my favorite part about playing games on release day is getting that fancy rare achievement notification for the most mundane things.
Well, it makes such a good noise that
it does.
Dude, not only does it make a good noise, but like I was playing it in my media room, which is like a little bit down the hall from the office. And so first off, it's like giant in my speakers, but then also I hear it coming from my office because like the achievements from my PC are like, like, oh, okay.
Because I've got the surround system in my living room. And when I was playing Ishin, the Yakuza spinoff, I'd started it on day one, and it was before many people had started playing it. So I was getting those diamond achievements left and right. And one of them I remember real early in the game was in like a really quiet, emotional moment, and like not Kiryu is like, "It's okay, we will survive," and like everything gets real quiet, and then just the loudest fucking noise from every speaker in my living room as I get that achievement.
The UI sounds on Xbox, especially on surround sound, are so loud.
Oh, yeah.
So loud. Saturn, tell us about the development of the game, because you've been following it closer than us. I don't think Guy or myself were following it whatsoever.
Nope.
Yeah, I'd been getting the Kickstarter updates, and so I've seen some of the development stuff. So it was announced on Kickstarter back on March 19th of 2020. Fortunately, nothing else happened in March of 2020, so it got all the attention.
Right, of course, yes.
Yeah, it was a totally normal month and year that nothing happened.
I don't remember 2021 or 2022 happening.
Right, yeah, none of that happened.
But what you say sounds correct.
Yeah.
So that's...
Their initial funding goal was 133,000 Canadian dollars, and they met that goal within 7 hours. And
it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a pretty good run. And so that was right as pandemic lockdowns were starting, was while they were running their campaign. So for a lot of video game people, that meant that it was not only in the news, but they were stuck in their homes anyway. So why not donate to this thing? And so they did announce some additional stretch goals and immediately met most of them. Those stretch goals included multiplayer, which I don't know if the actual game has the multiplayer or not. They did say that they would be adding it in the notes when they were developing it.
No, there's no multiplayer that I've seen at all.
I've not tried it, but it was supposed to be that a second player could control one of the characters in battle so that you could both input things at the same time or something.
Neat.
But I don't know if...
I didn't try that, but...
Me either. I did not try it. I've not had another human in my house in a while.
I don't see how that would even work because
of the turn-based thing.
Yeah, that doesn't... I don't think it's there, but I don't think any of us plugged in a second controller to try.
Yeah, I'm guessing that maybe that's something they'll be adding later. But it was announced as the very first stretch goal. And then also they announced animated cutscenes, New Game Plus, alternate endings, DLC. And then the big one that they announced was that they would be bringing in Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross composer Yasunori Matsuda to compose some of the tracks for the game. And they composed 10 tracks for the game. And that was a big thing for such a small studio to get like this industry legend of Matsuda. And then, what's that?
I said, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then one of the big things they announced was that for people who backed in the very high tiers, there would be this crypt area where these backers that spent a lot of money would be able to have a memorial for something, either for a loved one or just a statue of themselves or whatever. And from the limited time I spent in the crypt, it looks like a lot of people did put memorials for loved ones or pets or someone that they had lost, which is very sweet and touching. It's nice
I noticed
thing
a
to
lot
have.
of pet memorials in there,
Yes.
which was nice.
A couple of the people in our Discord backed at that tier and have memorials in the game, and they shared the coordinates for them in our Discord, so I was able to go find those.
Yeah, I was every time I see this kind of thing in games, I always get nervous because I'm worried it's just going to be stuff in there that's just like smoke weed every day from Big Booty Will Riker, like whatever this is dumb shit they
Big
put in,
Booty Will
Big
Riker.
Booty Will Riker is my favorite Will Riker.
And so it was nice that people seemed to take a little
Yeah.
there was some gravitas to most of the memorials I saw.
I think there was some pruning there. I
Yeah.
think that the team that behind the game gave some rules for what could and couldn't be in there.
so. Big Booty Will Riker couldn't appear in.
He, maybe as initials.
And we are poorer because of it.
That's what BBWR is. I've been trying to figure it out forever.
Yeah, there it is. The initial Kickstarter campaign was actually pretty close to what the final product would become. A lot of the images that they showed on Kickstarter look pretty close, aside from some UI changes. Like a lot of the character sprites were pretty much spot on for what we got in the final game, especially the main three or initial three playable party members. And they did say outright from the beginning the game was meant to be a prequel to The Messenger, just so that people would be aware that story connection would be present. They ended funding at out of their 133,000 Canadian dollar goal. They ended at 1.62 million Canadian dollars.
Woof.
That does not include any add-ons or late backers because they did keep the campaign going via backer kit for several months to allow people to jump in there. They did say that they were going to make a behind-the-scenes documentary, but I'm not part of that tier, so I have no idea if it finished or was released or anything. Otherwise, I would have used that information here, but I don't have that. And then much of the development team from The Messenger did carry over to Sea of Stars, which at the time of the announcement was only 16 people, but the credits show that they added several, not to mention third-party contractors.
I was about to say in the intro, there's Sabotage's logo, but then Kowloon is also there.
Yes,
and
that
at first I didn't know if they were a dev or if they're the ones that did the animation, but being up front, I assumed they.
Kowloon is a funding studio, actually.
It's
similar to someone like Digital Devolver, only Kowloon has, seemingly from their website anyway, very little creative involvement in any products that they back.
interesting.
They just back indie studios to make sure that those studios can self-publish their games.
Well, good on them.
And if you look at Kowloon's website, they've done several notable ones. Like Sifu was also funded by them.
Yeah,
But
I remember that one.
they did announce that as part of their Kickstarter updates that Kowloon Knights is coming on as the backer to provide a lot of the money.
Yeah.
And then around the same time, they announced that they wouldn't be able to release in 2022, so it's getting pushed to 2023, which is when it did release in August of 2023 with same-day release on PS Plus and Game Pass.
Yep. I think it was same day on all platforms.
Yes,
Wasn't
same day
it?
on,
Which is
on all 4 platforms.
hard to coordinate for tiny studios. I
and-
know. I feel like that we forget about how difficult that is.
And it was a trickle, too, because initially, right after the Kickstarter ended, they're like, it'll definitely be on PC and some console that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And then, 2 years later, they were like, it will be on PlayStation. And I was like, oh, no, I don't want... I will play it on PlayStation, but that wasn't my first choice.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, they're like, and Switch. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I could play it on one of those two. And then, 3 months ago, they were like, also Xbox and Day One Game Pass. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, that's better. So, yeah.
I was going to get it on Day One Game Pass and play it on Game Pass, and I played almost the entire thing on my TV, so I should have, but I bought it on Switch.
Oh, that's good.
Well, they deserve the money. It's fine.
They do. I think they do.
I
let's
played
talk
it for free.
presentation.
Haha.
It's
Yeah. And the freebie code that I got was the Xbox version, and I found that the codes they gave me was an Xbox Play Anywhere code, which means that I have both the Xbox and PC versions
well, that's nice.
Nice.
in addition to Game Pass.
Let's talk presentation.
Yeah.
This game looks really nice,
Oh, yeah, it looks gorgeous.
and my this never happens. My wife was sitting there reading a book while I was playing the game, and she looked up, and complimented the game on how good it looked.
Yeah.
I mean, she gave me the compliment because the game, can't hear her.
Right.
But she was like, I like how this game looks. This game looks really good. And I go, what do you mean? And she goes, I like the cartoony look.
Yeah.
And I found that interesting because she does not like pixel art looking stuff.
Yeah.
She has no nostalgia for it.
Right.
She didn't. Her first video game console was an N64. She never had anything before that growing up, so she has no nostalgia. And it was just and so that just never happens where she's like this.
You said
game
that
looks
she's also
really good.
playing Stardew right now.
She is, and the reason she hadn't picked it up before is because she didn't like the art in it. She's like, I don't
Okay.
like that it looks all pixely. And
Okay.
even when I bought it for her, she's like, oh, this is the pixely looking one. And I was like, yeah, but it's supposed to be really good, and the guide is really cute, so I
Yeah.
thought maybe you'd like it anyway.
Right. But she likes Sea of Stars.
She likes looking at
Graphically,
it.
yeah.
She doesn't want to play it. She's like, this game stresses me out watching you play this. So,
My cat loves the way it looks. Every time I have been playing it on my TV, my cat will run into the room to try to paw at the characters on the screen.
yeah.
And same if I'm playing on my PC in my bedroom, she'll run in here and jump up on the desk and just stare at it. I don't know what it is about the pixel art, but she loves it. And I am not allowed to play the fishing game around her, or she will swat at my screen and try to get the fishies. So
feel like
I've learned to mute the audio before I start the fishing minigame so that she doesn't run into the room to find it.
I know they've just openly stated the inspiration, but visually, I feel like it has a lot of visual inspiration from Chrono Trigger
Yeah.
specifically.
There's several points in the game where I noticed that there was obvious influence from either Mario RPG or Chrono Trigger or both, with certain area designs or enemy placements or character placements or whatever. So yeah, they definitely wearing that on their sleeve.
Visually, my complaint was really I have two complaints. The engine that the game is in is not strictly 2D, and they have some not 2D elements in the game. They have some 3D elements in the game.
True.
And I think they utilize that 3D portion of the engine for animation in some areas, and it looks a little weird sometimes.
True.
Really super minor nitpick, but just enough that every now and then I'd be like, oh, this looks kind of like weird looking. Also, the portraits sometimes look a little weird to me, like a little, Uncanny Valley-y or something. They also feel like they kind of clash with the rest of the visual presentation for me.
Like which portraits? Not like
all of
specific
them.
characters, but like which when they show up. Like, are you talking about like the portraits in the pause menu or portraits in like dialogue?
In dialogue.
Okay.
The ones that are emotive, because they'll have different portraits for different emotions, and sometimes they have the wrong portrait there.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I did notice that.
I noticed that one.
Especially in the back half of the game, there's some wrong portraits.
Yeah, and I get why, because it's for at least
Right.
the ones I noticed were for a specific
For
character
story
that
reason, yeah.
changes their appearance.
Yes.
But
was the one I
a
was
couple little
thinking, too.
goofs there. But then like the portraits just look weird. Like Brugraves, for whatever reason, his portrait, his face just looks weird to me.
Yeah.
I didn't notice any of that. My big complaint graphically is sometimes it is difficult to tell where a ledge is or isn't, or where you can or cannot jump up or down a ledge.
I did not have that issue.
Oh, I constantly was running into walls and be like, why can't I walk there? And then realizing that I was next to a jump down and having to hit the button. And then also other areas, you would be able to jump up, and it looked visually too high to me to be able to jump. So I didn't even try for several minutes until I had run out of other possible areas to go to. So I feel like they could have done just a touch more in indicating where those boundaries were.
Yeah, that
I
happened to
did
me
not
on
have that.
a couple occasions too.
I don't know that I had it as an ongoing issue. I think there was probably a couple times where I went to run somewhere and I was like, oh, that's not the thing. But then immediately I would see it,
Right.
you know.
It was pretty quick that I'd figured out, but it was still like that momentary frustration.
I want to talk about... Go ahead.
Sorry,
Okay.
I was gonna say I like that they saw the issue of lighting in indoor places by having the characters have auras.
Yeah.
And
I always like when games
those
do that.
auras looked really cool.
Really, the lighting in it in general is really good because it
yeah.
has like it's actually lit. It's not
Yes.
it's not like drawn that way. They lit it. It has a lighting engine.
They mentioned that as a selling point in the Kickstarter, was that it was going to have real-time lighting in a pixelated game. And at the time when I read that on Kickstarter, I was like, I don't care. But playing the game, it's actually really neat, yeah.
I think having characters that are based on the sun and the moon also really
Right.
ties into that lighting engine. I think it was a smart choice. I want to talk about Yasunori Mitsuda's soundtrack because it is amazing.
Now, again, Mitsuda only did 10 tracks in the game. The rest
wanna
of it
talk
was
about-
all the guy that did the Messenger's soundtrack.
Then both of them. I want to talk
Yes.
about both of them because this soundtrack is incredible.
Yes.
I almost never notice soundtracks in games because we just finished Chrono Cross.
Has a
And
phenomenal soundtrack.
I could not pick out a single song. Like if you took Chrono Cross and then a couple other pieces of orchestrated music and you handed them to me on a blank CD,
Ugh,
I would absolutely not be able to pick it out.
man.
This one, I've been humming the soundtrack all week,
Yeah.
so it really caught me, and I really really enjoy this soundtrack a whole lot.
Clearly, it's the non-Mitsuda tracks that are working for you since you couldn't
I don't know.
recognize
I
Chrono
don't know.
Cross.
I have no idea, and it is so weird coming right off the back of Chrono Cross to have this reaction to this and that reaction to that. Because I mean, I remember when we did the Chrono Cross episode, I was like, yeah, it's fine, I guess. I don't really notice it. You know, it's thematically appropriate.
I love the soundtrack to Chrono Cross. It's a phenomenal soundtrack. That's one of the few game music soundtracks that I don't mind listening to outside of a game just because of how good it is. But yeah, there were some phenomenal tracks in this.
Like, to be clear, I don't think that I would mind listening to the Chrono Cross soundtrack. I'm sure it is beautiful, except for Nikki's song.
Yeah, except for that one. Yeah, we can
But-
skip that.
Yeah, like the
I
Chrono
just-
Cross soundtrack is one of those that I spent a large amount of time downloading on Napster and LimeWire.
See, I had a friend who bought it at a local anime shop, so we just all copied his.
Ah,
It's
lucky.
just nothing in it caught me. Nothing in it was memorable enough to me that the tune was stuck in my head, you know.
Had the exact opposite experience. as Chrono Cross.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Tons of great tracks there. But no, also this game, phenomenal soundtrack.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. I also want to talk about one presentation note that I didn't notice how much I was enjoying until the end, and I was kind of thinking about it, and it is that this game is completely bereft of unnecessary sexualization and the kind of JRPG tropes that go along with it,
Right.
which is extremely refreshing for something
yeah.
in this genre.
Yeah.
There's a variety of body types. There's a variety of skin tones.
Yep.
People of similar skin tones aren't put in the same villages as each other and made to have certain stereotypical...
Except for the fish people. And the mole
Unless you're a
people.
fish person or a mole person, then you go to your own fucking village.
Now, I did notice, like, early on when you first are introduced to the characters in that first town,
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself, all right, so how long do I have to go before there's the inevitable love arc between these two characters? And
Yes.
it never really happens. They just
Never.
treat each other as humans and not as potential romantic interest A and potential romantic interest B.
Yes.
And
Really,
I do
there's
appreciate that.
not a single love story in the game that I even
No.
found. I mean, there are stories of non-romantic love. I mean, this story is
Yeah.
very much about
yeah, tons of
love
that.
and care and loving one another, but
Right.
none of it romantic, none of it sexual. And overall, it just felt really nice to get to play something that wasn't packed top to bottom with characters ripped out of a TV Tropes article about anime.
Right. Yeah.
It was so nice. It was nice. Like there weren't people with just like dressed in lingerie for no reason. There was no like characters weirdly drooling over scantily clad people. Like
There was only
nice.
one character that I noticed that could even be described as busty, which is usually every woman in a JRPG.
right.
And no one ever mentions it. No one draws attention to it. The artwork doesn't draw attention to it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
They just get to be themselves and exist, and I loved that. And I think
Yeah.
that's part of the reason that and we'll talk about more next episode, that I loved all the characters in this game so much.
Yeah. There are some
well,
characters I didn't love.
Oh, I liked all of them.
Like the whole
ahead, Guy.
the whole tone of everything was wholesome and genuine,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like to the point where, and we'll get to it in the story section, but like one of the characters, like in the Discord, we were talking about it, and a couple of people called like something would happen to that character. I was like, no way, there's no way. The way that the tone of this story is set up, there's no way that happens. Yep. You know, but like, I don't know, I was wrong about that, but whatever.
You know, I agree. The game is incredibly wholesome, eerily so for me. Yeah. I don't know if maybe this is just me, but the whole tone of the game, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop the entire time, and there are, you know, obvious mood whiplash moments because it's a story, but it still maintains that wholesomeness underneath everything, and that is nice. That is pleasant.
So I loved that aspect of the presentation. And to be clear, it's not one of those things where like the whole game you're waiting for you're like, all right, these two characters are going to fall in love.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
You don't even think about it. Like it's the game just.
There were a few times that I did think that. I was like, really? All right, I'm just waiting for some moment to happen, and they realize they're in love with each other.
Yeah.
But no, that never happens.
You know, like at the end of the day, I wouldn't. Sorry, man. Like at the end of the day, I wouldn't have a problem with like my 10 and 12-year-old playing this game, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's or even if like, you know, an 8-year-old, like they might have trouble playing the game, but I wouldn't thematically mind them playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My kid is playing Switch games now, and my wife is always looking out for Switch games she thinks she'll enjoy, and she saw Bayonetta and it had a woman on the cover. And so she picked it up and she's like, well, you know, she's like, oh, look, a game with a woman on the cover. Like, would Harper like this? And I was like, no, I don't think she would.
I don't know. How does Harper feel about TNA?
Now, granted, I think I could go on about Bayonetta's sexualization and why it is different than sexualization built for the male gaze because she has agency within the story.
Right.
But at the end of the day, no.
There's still some uncomfortable zoom-ins for a kid of that age.
At the end of the day, I don't know that it's appropriate. But let's talk gameplay because we have to get there and we're already like at time, so we need to talk about it.
Well, we also had like a 45-minute pre-show.
This is true. This is true. Extra long episode.
You know, he said his extra dad watch to time just the episode part, though.
Yeah, no, I did. I'm looking at it right now on my Timex Q LCA 80s reissue with a Spidell expansion band.
Your watch is more complicated than a Miu.
Right?
It just does regular stuff. I want to talk about the fishing up front because I feel like we're going to not talk about fishing for the rest of this time. We're going to talk about combat. There is fishing in the game. It does play a legitimately large role in the story in the post game.
Does it?
Does it really?
Yes. Fishing is very important.
I must not have gotten to... I caught all the fish before I got to the end game.
Catching all of them isn't the
that's
story
easy.
part.
Okay.
Okay.
No, there is a... It's not very long, but there is a significant story part that is based around fishing.
I bet I can guess where it is.
Oh, I'm sure you can. It's Still Pond Island is where it takes place.
You mean the part that says
obvious.
come back later? You haven't gotten this far yet?
Yeah. I don't love the fishing minigame.
Yeah, me either.
I don't
It's
hate
a
it.
little... I don't hate it.
I hate it
I'd
much
agree with
less
that.
than in many other JRPGs. I will say that.
I'm just not in love with it. It felt, until I got the fishing rod upgrades, it felt, certain fish felt just impossible to catch.
Yeah.
I had a really hard and now once you get the upgrades, basically everything is easy. It goes from some fish being nearly impossible to everything being very easy.
See, my issue was I couldn't figure out how to get the fishing rod upgrades until after I had already gotten all the shitty fish.
Oh no!
So
you get the fishing shop in Mirth and the guy.
I hadn't cashed in my conches to get the fishing shop.
You were saving them in your little Saturn way.
No, I just didn't remember to
just
go
hadn't
back
gone
there.
back.
Yeah, and so I didn't have the fishing hut, so I just kept on trying to catch them until I got them all, and kept getting angry at the game.
Yeah.
But by then I had them.
The other mini game in the game is Wheels, which I really wish we could talk about for a whole episode. Because
Wheels is so good.
Oh, it's great.
It's all right.
It is great. I don't know what it is. And Guy, maybe you can speak to this because I know Saturn can't, and if he could, he wouldn't. It really scratches the same itch to me as a TCG.
Yeah.
It really has. There's a lot of depth to it. There's a good amount of strategy, a little bit of randomness, and it's fun. It's a blast.
Yeah.
I think they've already indicated that they're either considering or already working on a standalone version of Wheels, which I'm very excited for.
I would just pick the priest and the mage every time, and then give all the points to the priest and win. I don't know if there was a strategy involved.
Mm-hmm. There was that. You just told me your strategy.
Yeah. No, that was that won every champion in the game. That was it. That was my whole
strategy. Was pick the priest and put all the points in him. You just said it.
Oh, and also the mage.
And the mage, right?
Yeah,
right.
that's
yeah.
it.
The mage was good. I think I used the when I got it eventually. I used the priest and I don't know. It's a rogue or whatever. The one that bypasses the walls.
Yeah.
And I really want to sit here and just explain everything about Wheels, but we just don't have the time. So let's talk. This game is really split into two categories, which is exploration and combat. Let's talk exploration. Zale and Valir can climb ledges that are their height or lower. They can swim. They can jump down from almost any ledge despite the height. And I feel like this is
never break their ankles.
This is a deviation from kind of more rigid, standard JRPG traversal. Certainly, we see these elements in some JRPGs, but I feel like it's not super common in the genre.
I feel like it's become more common.
I think it has, as genres have blurred together and nothing means anything and words are made up,
right?
In that general broad sense of things.
Yeah.
But it feels very Zelda-like for me. I really enjoyed the exploration. You have a few tools for traversal. You have the Mistral Bracelet, which lets you push blocks. You have the Graplow, which is a grappling hook that lets you kind of hook across certain gaps and hook to treasure chests or enemies.
Grapploo.
Same, yeah.
Grapploo. I always called it Graplow. That was Graplow. I don't even know how I say it now. I've forgotten.
Yeah,
how did I say it the first time?
I think you said Grapplao.
Grapplao.
And I've been saying Grapploo because it looks like the name Lou is at the end there.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Grapploo Albano.
Yeah, Grapploo Albano. Captain Grapploo.
The puzzles in the game, there's a lot of sun and moon based puzzles because you can speed through the day forward or backward to make it daytime or nighttime. And there's a lot of gyms that direct light from the sun or the moon to certain panels and stuff. There's a lot of puzzles around that. There's a ton of sliding block puzzles.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously I'm on record as loving. But I actually really didn't mind them here. I thought they were all really good. They were all, even the really easy ones, there was always at least a moment of head scratching where I'm like, okay, let me try to figure this out.
As a fan of sliding block puzzles, they all felt very easy to me.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Every single block puzzle felt easy to me. However, not in a bad way.
There were some of them that I would just sit there and move blocks back and forth for 30 minutes because I couldn't.
There was only one that gave me pause at all, and it's because I didn't realize what the objective was.
Oh, I see.
And then once I saw what the objective was, it was pretty quick to push everything around.
I'd say probably 60% of them were challenging to the point that I couldn't walk up and immediately see every move I needed to make. I'd have to scoot them around for a second and then go, oh, okay. Like they'd take me a couple of seconds to figure out and then do the maneuvers. Yeah. And then 40% of them, I would have to stop and stare at it and be like, okay, because I'm dumb, I guess. I don't. What part of your brain you need for that? I can't.
I think a lot of it is just that I've played so many games with sliding block puzzles that I've been trained in it at this point.
I think some of it is also just having the confidence that you can't mess it up, right?
Right. Yeah. There's that too.
Yeah, and I that is a good point about the puzzles in this game is that. I kept thinking there would eventually be a puzzle where like you would bork it and have to leave the area and come back, and they put in safeguards on every single puzzle so you never have that happen, which I very much appreciated as someone who is bad at them.
Yeah, for me, the navigation and the puzzle solving reminds me most closely of the second Lufia and the first Wild Arms.
I didn't play either of those. Well, no, I played Lufia 2.
Okay,
not the whole thing, but a good chunk of it. It feels like I could see Lufia 2, but like better designed.
Right, yeah. There's a more modernized version of it.
I could see that, yeah, totally.
Like as far as the integration of the puzzles to the general navigation, it reminds me of those specifically, just a more streamlined, more friendlier quality of life version of that same formula.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I found a lot of times where I was trying to get through an area and like get, all the paths so I didn't miss anything or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I would be like, oh, let me go on this path. And then it would be like, I would get to a point where I was like, oh, no, I had to go on that path to get to the other path. Okay.
That was my other thing was I kept expecting there to be some sort of side path that I could take by solving these puzzles. But instead, they were all the correct path. It was always the linear path. And even the few times that there is a deviation from the linear path, I would get there and I would look at the two paths, and my 35 years of video game experience, I've gotten pretty good at saying, okay, this one was more work, so that's the way I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
And this one is less work, so I should go there first. And I would always accidentally go the correct way first in this game. I don't know what they did to break my brain to where I always accidentally went the story path and then would have to backtrack to get that one chest with nothing in it.
You know what I did? And it worked literally every time throughout the entire game, to the point that I'm convinced that they did it on purpose, is I always went left. I would always go left. For any time I had a choice of where to go, I would go left, and I'd be like, oh, this is the not story area. I can find the little treasure in this zone. Every single time that I was presented with
there wasn't a left? What if it was up and down?
I don't know. I can't think of a situation where that... I'm sure it did. But if it's up and down, then I came from one of them, so I'd go on the other one.
Yeah, for me, the first one that I remembered really pointing out, the two paths that I could go were up or right, because I was coming from the left. And I was looking at them, and I was like, well, I'm definitely going right, because I've been going right this whole dungeon. And also, I have to do some work to go right and no work to go up. So they clearly want me to go up. So I'm gonna go right they want me to go right, so I'm gonna go up first. And I went up, and it was the boss.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, I feel like
I always went left.
All the path traversal and all the puzzles of path traversal were all like, like Saturn was saying, like they were easy, but they were enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like I saw what I had to do, and it was the process of doing it was fun.
Yeah, it was relatively easy enough that I feel fairly confident in saying that people should be able to get their way through it with there might be some resistance, but not like it won't be an impediment. But I never felt like it was so simple that it was aggravating. Like,
it was never that,
felt like a chore.
It was never that thing where the second you walk in, you're like, I know exactly what the solution is, and I have to go through a 30-step process to make it happen.
Yeah,
and
that never
that's
happened.
Annoying.
If anything, retraversing areas, because there's quite a bit of backtracking, was sometimes annoying, just because even if you open up 30 paths that make your trip faster, you have to remember which one is which.
Right.
And you might accidentally end up in a battle you can't avoid. Even if it's with easier enemies, you're still going to have to take your time on it.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating.
I felt like the zones themselves were really well designed, and everything was built with shortcuts and passageways to the point that first time traversal never felt tedious for me.
Yeah.
I can see that. Anytime I'd hit a point where I was like, oh, I got to go back to such and such, there would be a shortcut, there'd be a ladder, there'd be a drop down, so that I never felt annoyed at the traversal until I was backtracking. And I think backtracking just by its nature is just going to be annoying. It's just kind of how it is.
One niggling complaint that I have, which isn't even a real complaint, but it's something that came to my mind several times while playing it as a frustration, but it's not a frustration, is the game allows you to set up camp anytime you're on the overworld, right? So that you can heal and save. And in my mind, from 30 years of playing JRPGs, I am accustomed to, you do not enter an area until you are fully healed and saved. So I would always open a camp on the overworld right before I'd enter any zone.
Tedious as hell.
Yeah.
To heal and save. And then I would enter the area, and there would immediately be a campsite and a save point at the very entrance of literally every area.
Sometimes I wouldn't even save before bosses. I would just barrel in there.
Now I'm getting anxiety from you saying
the game auto saves
pretty generously.
Every now and then there's a weird gap in it, and you're like, what the fuck happened? But the auto saves were frequent enough, and it seems to be when you transition areas that it is prone to auto saving, and it seems to stack it up so that it hits an auto save before bosses. Now, don't take my word at that, but it felt like that was happening. So I by the end of the game, I wasn't even really worried about saving. I was playing hours at a time without saving.
Like, I camped so infrequently, I didn't even realize Teaks was part of the camping until like Act 2.
Same, yeah. Absolutely
man,
the same.
I was constantly camping just to heal and save, and so I saw everybody there, and I would talk to them every time that I was there, and then yeah.
Although, having
I camped
said
a
that,
single
like,
digit number of times.
I also did the thing where, like, if there was a camp and you had like branching paths in the area or whatever, like I would go and like clear a screen of it, come back to the camp real quick, and then go like, you know, to the next screen and stuff. So like I found that getting to the camps and healing, you could do every like 2 battles for the most part the entire game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them too.
I just kept. In the last dungeon, I think I backtracked to a campsite, but I never really.
I was having to go back after every battle or 2 just because I would be near death at that point.
Let's talk about combat.
Okay.
There's really
the brutally exhausting combat.
The great amazing combat.
Saturn had
so
some
hard.
issues. I'm kind of glad that we all had such different opinions about the combat, because I'd hate for us to all just be like, it's incredible. Because Saturn, I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination to say that you fucking hated it.
No.
Come on!
I did not hate it. I found it incredibly difficult.
I've
but
never
also,
seen you so mad at a game.
No, I wasn't mad at the game. So I find
mad at the game.
So I find the combat incredibly difficult and sometimes mean.
Okay.
But I also think it's an incredibly clever and interesting system that, when applied to certain battles, is really great. I love it on every boss battle. On every normal battle, I find it exhausting and stressful and so difficult.
I was blown away to hear that opinion of yours the first time. I was like, are we playing the same game? Like, I was shocked.
Not
Just
only,
before
not
we
only
started
the first time, but like every time after that too, right? Like, sure, because you know, I think Saturn's complaint at the beginning was like, it's just so hard in the beginning because you have so little health and so little mana.
And you never get any more mana. You barely get any more mana the entire game.
See, I disagree with that, because like I don't know, like having like 20 mana, it seemed like more than enough to do skills while getting in an extra hit, and then you get like an extra cast of everything.
I could rarely find a turn where I couldn't cast a spell. If enemies started doing anything with a lock, I was having to cast spells back to back to back until I ran out of mana, and then I would end up taking a ton of damage while I tried to regenerate my mana, to the point to where I would immediately just have to start healing and using it again, to the point where it was just this constant up and down of getting in some basic hits until I'm drained on mana, and then as I'm rebuilding my mana, I'm losing all of my health, to the point where usually 1 or 2 characters is dead. And I would have to try to climb back out of that hole so that I could start using my mana again.
This is what confuses me is I never felt like I had an abundance of mana. I didn't feel like the game was stingy with it, but I felt like it wasn't ultra generous with mana.
Mm-hmm.
So there were times where there was plenty of turns where I would just be out of luck. I'd be like, all right, there's these locks are stacked up. I wasn't playing conservatively. I extended a little too far. I'm just gonna have to take the hit. Like it happened plenty. But I was breaking locks with combo moves and live mana as much as I was breaking them with skills. It was
same.
And so like
I kept encountering locks. I felt like nearly every battle I would encounter a lock that would have like 4 moons or 3 moons, and you can't do that with just live mana.
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do about that.
Sarai can disorient 3 times, and that'll get you like 9 turns to do that. I mean,
disorienting with her once she's out of mana, she can't use it again. Then she has to recharge, and by then the enemy's already used the ability and wiped somebody out.
7,
right? And it took me forever to get her above 14.
Really?
Oh yeah, like even at the end of the game when I'm level 20 some odd, she's only at 19 right now.
Yeah, end of the game, I was getting 2 disorients out of Sarai, so it would pop in. I could attack, live mana attack, disorient, live mana attack, disorient, and then get like 4 or 5 live mana attacks in with her 2 disorients.
But often at the same time that I would have the one enemy with the 3 or 4 moons on the lock, another enemy would have 3 or 4 poisons on the lock. And the only way to get past that is with Sarai's other ability. So I could either delay the one and hope to get through it, or break the other one.
Or combo attacks or combo delays with Rayshawn. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, that's also, well, I mean, we're talking about combat, and this is really integral to the combat. And I think,
but we have to explain what all this means first.
Sure, yeah, go for it. Sorry.
So the game is a turn-based RPG in which players are encouraged by the game to try to time attacks for bonus damage and bonus healing. I would say that timing everything in this game is absolutely vital, and if you have no intention of timing your attacks and blocks and skills, then you're going to have an extremely hard time with the game.
Which is weird that it even tells you up front. It's like, oh, you don't need to do this in order to win, but it really feels like you do need to do it. Yeah.
That said, I really like timing in games like this because it makes the combat. There's a reason for me to pay attention to it, and I like that. I get why some people don't enjoy timing systems. I understand that. I understand for a lot of people it's the grind or the zen or the whatever of playing RPGs. That's not what I come to them for.
I don't mind the timing systems generally. I did find the defense timing pretty difficult in this.
So this is very much the timing is. There's no real indicator, and it's not static across characters, even characters in your party.
True.
And so it becomes a game about learning animations. And I know that I like that in games where it's like, oh, this is a new monster I haven't seen. Let me learn his animations, and then I'll be able to time.
I've learned that I have a bad habit of, in any game, just after the first time that I look at a enemy or a character or whatever, I just start zoning out and seeing them as blob. And so I do not notice minor or subtle changes to their appearance unless there is a sound that goes along with it.
Yeah, that would absolutely make this game dramatically harder for
me.
Yeah.
The 4th character you get, who I won't mention, or no, sorry, the 5th character you get, whose name I will not mention, that is the one that I found the offense the hardest.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, what's shocking to me about that is because when you get him, I was excited because he had the easiest timing of everyone.
Yeah,
and that's why I liked using him. And then I looked at
the 6th character I found had very easy timing, but the 5th character, the one that throws the thing up and then hits it with the second thing.
I thought you were talking. Okay, you're talking about Roshan.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything.
Well, we did now. Spoilers. Roshan's timing is weird. He definitely does have the weirdest.
He's the
timing.
5th character.
See, I didn't think his timing was weird on offense. Like, it's just whenever the thing hits his head, you throw a second one immediately.
Yeah, see, I was doing that, but that's what I was doing, and it looked right, but I didn't see the little star come out of me when I would do that.
So Roshan, his regular attack, he throws an arcing flask, and when it's about to hit the enemy, you push the button and it'll throw a second one and you'll get the combo, and it turns into an AoE. But the distance from Roshan to the enemy is always different, so the timing of the thrown flask feels different.
Yeah, but it doesn't do the little victory splash. The little star doesn't go up when you do it, so I always thought that I was doing it wrong.
It does. No, it does.
Oh,
yeah.
I never saw that on mine.
Yeah. I
wonder if there's a glitch on the Xbox version for that.
In the game, I had 4 game overs, and 2 of them were legitimate. I just fucked up. And then 2 of them were me just learning Roshan's timing because I was having such a hard time with it. Just ran straight into 2 game overs trying to figure out his timing for his attacks because there's a segment where you only get him and one other party member, and I was getting decimated.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So that's the timing thing. There is also live mana. Standard melee attacks generate live mana, which can be used to supercharge any character action to add different attack types to them.
Yeah. Which is really neat. I like that system.
And that helped with locks a lot.
That plays into the lock system, which I think is the most innovative and interesting portion of the combat in this game.
Now, I did also have a concern with the live mana system. I think it's really neat, and I like how it works, but I also was constantly running out of that too.
Well, you're supposed to.
I felt like I had it just piled up half the time. I
kind of felt that way too. But I kind of want to push back here. You said the most innovative part, and I don't think any of it is innovative. I think it's all stuff that has existed, just the way that they put it together meshed really well.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
right? Because timings existed in various games like Mario
Tons of
RPG.
games, yeah.
Locks, you have like Octopath Traveler.
Yeah, true.
Getting mana back from doing hits is in other games. All that stuff. It exists. It's just the way that they sewed it together made it feel so fresh and new.
Yeah, live mana is the one thing that I don't immediately recognize from something else. It feels familiar, but I can't think of another game that has done exactly something like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't play Octopath, so I guess I didn't run into that. So
it does have similar, very, very similar to the lock system.
I started it, hated it, and turned it off, if memory serves. So, pardon me, I suppose the lock system is not innovative, but I found it to be the most interesting part of the combat. It was innovative to me because I hadn't seen it before. I think it really represents the core puzzle of the combat, and what it is when every enemy will attack. They get a timer above their head that tells not only when they're going to attack, but if they're going to have 2 attacks back to back.
Right.
That's what the little fast forward symbols are.
Oh.
Oh no, Saturn.
I was trying to figure out the fast forward symbol the whole time.
Yeah, so if they're doing a regular attack and they have a fast forward symbol, you need to save everything for the locks they have coming up.
Oh.
Because they're going to attack and then go straight into a lock maneuver. So if you can deal specific damage types as indicated above their head before their timer runs out, before they cast their ability, then it will cancel their ability entirely.
Yeah.
And I really like the lock system. It really turns it into more of a combat puzzle than a pure combat game, and that's kind of driven home by the fact that your characters never really die. They just get temporarily knocked out of combat.
Yeah, I do like that part. I like that your characters will wake up on their own. I've seen that in other games. I was trying to think of which other game I've seen it in, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
But it is. I always do appreciate when characters just wake back up after a bit instead of you having to waste some item to revive them or whatever.
So for me, unlike Guy, my touchstone for similarities in the lock system came from the tabletop world. I have a tabletop game called One Deck Dungeon. And Guy, have you played it? Did I bring One Deck Dungeon to you?
Not sure.
So in One Deck Dungeon, you play a character and you have different abilities, and you have each ability has a color. So you'll be like, all right, I've got 4 pink agility dice and 2 blue melee combat dice. And each character has a different number of these dice, different number of stats. And monsters come out, the cards flip over, and they'll have squares on them that will be a color and have a number. So you'll roll your 2 yellow agility dice, and there will be a yellow box with a 3 in it. So you need to have at least a yellow dice with at least a 3 on it to cover that up. And when you cover all the boxes up, the enemy's defeated.
Oh, okay. Neat.
And it is one of my favorite tabletop games. I absolutely love it. I adore it. And the puzzle in this, the lock system is the same as that. And just like in One Deck Dungeon, if you can't finish them, bad things will happen, right?
Yeah.
But the nice thing is, like, it
go ahead.
If you can do some of them, it reduces the amount of that bad for the most part.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
For the most part.
But there's certain enemies where you can knock out 9 of the 10 locks and it'll still be at 100%. And that always feels kind of cheap.
Yeah, but those are bosses. That happens.
Mostly bosses, yeah.
The lock system, initially, I think the game kind of, I don't know that it teaches you or that it just doesn't teach you not to, but it's kind of indicated to you that, like, all right, well, I need to break locks with skills. And so you begin breaking locks with skills, and you quickly learn that that's an inefficient way to break locks.
Well, there is that one tutorial dungeon where they tell you to use the live mana to break the locks. And,
True. Yeah.
And
you get that a little ways into the game. And so you've got different tools to break the locks, and then later on you get tools to avoid the locks, and then later on you get tools to cancel out damage entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And so after you've got a few characters...
What tool do you get to avoid the locks?
Disorient.
And Reshian's skill or whatever.
Yeah, Reshian's delay combo abilities. This is level 2 delay. I think it's level 2.
No. I'm just talking about his regular skill that breaks a lock, and if you time it right, breaks the second
and it will
one.
break a random lock too. Yeah, if you time it right.
I apparently never saw any of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Reshian has one ability to break 2 locks randomly of any kind, and then his second combo ability combos with Sarai and will delay. So
I really need to go back and look at what
see. So this is what we were talking about in the Discord, because you're having such a hard time with the combat.
Yeah.
And the conversation shifted from like, oh, I didn't feel like it was that way, to What are you? It felt like I was like, you got to be not getting something. It's okay
Yeah.
to not like it. That's your
Right.
totally
No,
valid.
No, it's not that I don't like it. I just
But
felt that it was incredibly difficult.
It felt so much like you were missing something,
Right.
And I think
I feel like I was
maybe-
missing a lot.
Like, it
think
seems
that
like
seems
everybody's
like it.
consensus was that Saturn is having a more difficult time than literally anyone
Then
else,
it
and it
seemed
didn't
like
make
we
sense.
were, yeah. And he has the same tools because it's a pretty linear game.
And I mostly had problems in the first half of the game.
The first half is harder, I think.
It's so
for
much
sure.
harder, especially like the first quarter of the game is brutal. Where a lot of the regular enemies, if you don't break their locks, they're going to do 2/3 to 3/4 of your health in one hit, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I started off using Zale a lot for healing, Zale and Garl, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, same here.
And then eventually, like when you get the whatever it is that gives you like 10x combo, right? Cruel. You guys with me here?
Well, I mean, you can only have
Oh, the relic.
Yeah. Once
Yeah.
you get that relic, like the game just becomes like super easy, or combat becomes really easy because like you
I
can
never had that
you can heal your whole party almost every fight.
Hold on. Explain this relic to me, because I either wasn't using it or I didn't have it.
It's not a relic. It's one of those gold accessory items.
Yeah.
Okay, and what does it do?
It boosts how fast your combo gauge grows.
Like 10x.
Know that I had that.
Yeah. It's insane.
What? damn it.
Like normal fights, you can get to like the second tier combo pretty quickly.
I think I played the whole game without that because second tier combos always came real late. Like building combo was tough for me.
Oh no, it's super easy.
Without that accessory, it's difficult to use anything outside of boss fights. But with that accessory, yeah, you hit level 2 pretty often. Usually, I would just barely not hit level 2 before the enemies would be gone, which meant that I would not be healed, so I'd just run back to the campsite.
Yeah, that does happen a lot.
So, all of us having epiphanies aside,
This is what happens when we review a game that is barely a month old.
what I like about the lock system is that after a little ways into the game, you get different tools to interact with it in different ways.
If
And-
you bother to read what they are.
Right, if you bother to read them, and I like that a lot. So a lot of times I would be in a situation where because another thing is you really kind of need to learn which enemies, in addition to their animations, have the really devastating maneuvers, because there
Yes.
were some enemies that I knew what their maneuvers were, and I'd be like, it doesn't fucking matter, I'm not going to break their lock because
Right.
I know what they do, and it
Yeah.
sucks, or it's not relevant here, or who cares, or it's a heal and they haven't taken any damage yet.
Yeah.
But on top of that,
And then there were
were
some enemies that had multiple abilities that they could use.
Yeah, and you'd have to learn. I only ever really remember non-boss enemies having up to 2, but there was probably some that had more than that. I feel like some had 2 though.
And it did seem like for the most part that different locks meant different moves coming too. Sometimes they were the
They
same,
seem to have
but
some kind of indicator. Yeah.
Yeah.
But with these different tools to interact with it, it meant that the puzzle was very complex. So there were a lot of combats where I would be staring down the barrel of, however many giant locks, and I would have to set the controller down and just stare at it and think about it and like math out, like, okay, I can disorient him twice, and then I can melee attack to break those 2 locks, which will give me live mana for these 2 locks. Like, just working out the puzzle of it.
I didn't realize what disorient was until after I was near the end of the game. Very, very near the
No
end
wonder
of the
you're
game.
having a hard
I
time.
literally
man.
never used disorient.
Really?
Yeah.
By the end of the game, nearly any combat that I knew would take me more than a few turns was disorient into Lunar Shield every single time.
Yeah,
I didn't use Lunar Shield until the final dungeon.
I didn't really
I'm
like
shocked at how different y'all played the game from me.
I didn't like what's her face? The assassin
Sarai.
lady.
Sarai.
Sarai, yeah.
Oh man, I like her. Her phase shiv does a ton of damage.
I feel like her
Although her
regular
ultimate
attack just
sucks.
doesn't do any damage, and so it was
Oh yeah,
just,
her regular attack kind of sucks.
Yeah, her
and it's hard
regular
to
attack's
time.
Yeah.
kind of terrible. I didn't have trouble timing her.
I
Yeah.
always had trouble timing her. I will say, regarding the combat system, I did find my solution for it that got me over the hump to the point where I could handle the last half of the game, and that was cheating. So, Cheat Engine solved 100% of my problems with this game.
Yeah.
It made combat easier by reducing the damage that I was taking by half and increasing the damage I was outputting by double. And then also, the most important thing that Cheat Engine did that I appreciated was it increased overworld movement speed by double. I could move around, I could swim faster, I could climb faster. The movement speed is just a touch too slow for me. and it frustrates me. And I hope that if they release any patches for the game, they add a run button.
I
Yeah, I can
feel
see
like
that.
the movement speed ties into, and this is going to sound really weird, the stat management for me, because the game is very low to the ground.
Yeah,
There are
like Paper Mario.
just numerically compared to a lot of other RPGs,
Right.
there are not a ton of fights.
Mm-hmm.
And that's including like the regular overworld battles.
Sure.
There's just not a ton of them.
Yeah.
And especially in the back half of the game, there were hours at a time where I would not have a combat.
I don't know that I ever went that long, but there's definitely fewer enemies as you get closer to the end, and then I guess if you're cleaning up all the post game stuff, you can just bypass a lot of it.
So all the numbers in this game are really low, really manageable. Everything is double digit. Your health dips into the triple digits. That's the biggest anything really ever gets. I never saw any 4-digit numbers ever.
If you use Cheat Engine, you can see 4-digit numbers all the time.
Even final ending, I never saw them. And I love this.
I found one thing in Cheat Engine to let the moon ring automatically reflect itself, and I left the room for 12 minutes while I was making lunch. And when I came back in the room, I hit the button to end it, and I did 8,000 damage to everything.
Nice.
The Moonerang minigame is one of my favorite games to play, along with
is.
Sarai's daggers. I
Poison
really
Mangle,
like.
Yeah, that was super fun. I figured out at one point
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
after like the third Moonerang or so, you can just hit it as soon as you've reflected it, and like
Yes.
it's fine.
Yeah. Why I love these low numbers a lot. I love not having to keep up with big numbers. It means that every stat point matters because you don't have a shitload of them. Like if you level up and you get +5 to your stat, and then you're able to add 3 more with your bonus choice, that's a lot. That felt substantial to me.
I have learned that the low numbers give me a lot of stress.
Speaking
I have also learned that
of
about
the
you.
bonus stat allocation, did y'all have like a preference for like order of operations kind of thing?
Health and mana. Health and mana.
You told me to do mana first, and I did mana until I couldn't pick it, and then I did magic damage. And so mana and magic damage I did high, and then I just started kind of spacing it out. I ignored defense for most of the game. Almost the whole game, I took almost no extra defense points.
Yeah, I did mana, and then if I didn't have mana, I did health, and if I didn't have health, I did physical attack
Yeah.
until I was out of all of
That's-
those.
I did mana, then health, then defense until I was out.
But the low numbers also feed into, I feel, the slower movement speed, because this is a very deliberate game. Every zone, every section of every zone matters. Every combat matters and is impactful. Like everything in this game feels like it was intentionally designed, whether you like it or not. You know, and
But when you're backtracking to an area for the 4th time, I want to be able to move faster.
yeah, the speed just never got me. It
It
never
definitely got me.
I feel like a lot
I
of
got
the outdoor areas didn't have a whole lot of screens to move through. And like if you knew
They
where
were
you were
tight.
trying to get to, like by the end game when you can fly around and land wherever, every section has like 2 entrances. So,
That implies that I know where I'm going.
well, yeah, okay.
So I the whole game is very like it has there's no fat. It is just exactly what it wants to be. There's no
Yes.
fluff, there's no fat. There is the post game content where you have to backtrack and find some collectibles, but that's technically optional, you know.
You guys waited until the
it's-
post game to find collectibles?
Yeah, I did it all after.
No, I did it. I went and got all the as many collectibles as I could stand.
Yeah. I got as many as I could as soon as I got the boat.
No, I got
Nope.
to the near the end of the game, and then I was like, oh, I can fly. I'm glad I wasn't collecting shit because that would have been annoying.
Yeah, it would have been real
I mean, I
annoying.
was collecting everything I could, like along the paths along the way, and backtracked a couple spots. But like when it pops up and says, "Hey, the final dungeon is next," that's when I went back and got like as much as I could.
Yeah.
Now, I learned that the low digits cause me a lot of stress and anxiety because I am used to if I am low on an item or low on a stat or low on a mechanic, I don't want to use it because I'm worried that I'll need it later. And if
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
down
this-
to 1 of something, that is emergency status. Do not use it unless you are about to die. But the thing is that some of the enemies in this game hit so hard that by the time I think I'm about to die, I'm already dead.
Yeah.
And it's too late to come back from it. Like there was one boss that was doing 150 damage to all 3 of my characters simultaneously,
Yeah, you got to
And
do it
that's-
like a timed lunar shield to heal that, and then protect, and then heal more.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. It's the strategery of Lunar Shield, right?
I didn't realize Lunar Shield existed until the end.
Oh yeah,
And,
that might be it too.
And even
Lunar
then, I
Shield
mostly
stacks.
forgot about it.
It stacks, and if you swap out characters, they keep their shields. So you'll have like 2 shields on a character, pack them away for later, fight till you're almost out of stuff, bring them out. They can tank some stuff. While I mean, it's the Lunar Shield's the best.
Oh, I thought of the thing that Live Mana reminds me of. By the way,
What's
it's points in Bravely Default.
Oh yeah. That is very similar. I will give you that.
Yeah.
See, so I could never afford Lunar Shield or any ability really
Yeah,
because
it
I kept
costs 11. Yeah.
I kept running out of MP, so I was too hesitant to even look at what the other skills did because I knew that was something I couldn't afford to use anyway. So I just ignored most of my skills for most of the game.
Yeah, but see, like I was at a point where I had like 20, 22 mana or whatever, or 20, even like 21 or 18 mana with her, and like that, like I was saying earlier,
2 Moonerangs and then it's over.
Well, or you do a Lunar Shield and then you hit something one time and then you have enough for a second Lunar Shield, right? Like it's the finding times to pop in like a regular hit so you can generate your MP. It seems like really important.
Yeah,
Shannon,
I
let me
never could
run-
find that time.
Let me run this scenario by you because
Okay.
there were times where my characters would have 1 HP left.
Oh God.
But because I know what is happening and I know when the enemy isn't going to attack, I wouldn't heal them immediately because it wouldn't be the right tactical choice.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't. Oh no, that's
Or sometimes
I
the
can't
right
do that.
tactical choice is let them die and come back in 2 turns with half health.
Let them
Oh, there-
die, and then
there were a
and
lot
then
of
wait out the
times-
KO.
it was probably a dozen times in the game where one of my characters died and I immediately exited back to the dashboard, restarted from my last save point because I was worried that would only make the battle worse. I
No.
can't.
Oh, no.
Can't do that. I can't. Anytime that I'm below about 60% health, all I'm thinking about is how do I heal everyone immediately.
Oh no, there were
talking about
times
this in
when
the
like
Discord.
I'd be down to one character and I would just give them food until the other characters came back, and then I'd heal
Oh, no,
everybody
I'm-
real quick and keep going with the battle.
Or if
No,
they had
I'm-
a couple stacked lunar shields on them, you just do melee attacks even though they have almost no health and they're your only guy to build
God.
up live mana. So when your KOs pop up, then you can break the locks.
I like
Yeah,
that
no,
this is a
I'm
JRP
force
that
quitting the
that
game.
like has broken Saturn. This is like my favorite
Yeah.
part of this.
So this is something we talked about in the Discord, and I do want to address it because one, obviously, we care about Saturn's opinion, but also I think certainly not all of your issues you're having with this game, but I think some of your issues you're having with this game are things that you're bringing to it.
True.
You
Yeah,
know,
it absolutely
and,
is.
And as easily the most entrenched JRPG fan here,
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting perspective where this game demands that you do not play it like a JRPG that you normally would, and if you do, you're gonna have a really hard time with
And
it.
it's not just JRPGs. It's any game that I have a health meter. I am keeping it topped up as often as I can. I am a very defensive player at every possible game there is. And that's just always how I play everything. And I didn't realize there was a shield ability in this until the end, which really fucked me. But because I was playing so defensively for most of the game,
Yeah.
it meant that I couldn't get in any offense, and it was only making things worse for me.
So it's interesting. There's no fat. It's so the game again, whether you like it or not, it is very meaningfully designed. Everything is very. Everything matters. Every point of health matters. Every MP point matters.
The game is very specifically tuned, especially the combat system,
Yeah.
to that very specific form of gameplay that doesn't make sense to my head.
Well,
And this is kind of
some
getting
it
into
is-
final thoughts. Go
sorry.
ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry, but like some of it is that you also have to think of the priority of what you have in the sense that like combos are per battle user to lose it. Same with live mana. Your skills, your MP pool, stays consistent from fight to fight or whatnot.
Right.
But like your health, for example, if a character dies, then when combat's over, if they're still dead, they're at half health, and half health is good enough generally.
No,
Yeah, I
it's
don't
not.
heal
I'm running
between
back
battles,
to the
yeah.
healing spot.
So I think it's this, like the way I play these games in general, and this is why I struggle so much. JRPGs are very hard for me, extremely hard games. And it's because one, I hate busy work. I don't want busy work. I have plenty of busy work around my house. I don't need to do it in a game. I want to do the important stuff. And Sea of Stars delivered there. And this is kind of getting into final thoughts, I suppose. But the combat very much wants you to treat all of your resources as resources, and it's something that you hear in the TCG space, which is health is a resource. It's something you're expending to do something else rather than heal yourself. And this game really seems to reward that level of thinking. It seems to reward you kind of extending yourself out there and figuring it out along the way and planning for it. And I don't know that it super rewards playing incredibly defensively, but then at the same time, I would categorize a lot of the way I played by the end of the game as defensive as far as disorienting and shielding constantly.
Right,
but
yeah.
I wasn't like, oh, my guys are at half. If the sixth character's at half health, I don't even bat an eye. I'm like, I don't care. That dude's got like 300 health. He's got plenty. If I'm in between battles and I don't have full MP, or some characters have no MP, I don't care. I don't worry about it. I'm going to continue extending myself, and it punishes me in regular JRPGs. In this game, did not. It gave me tools to work with that, and I so greatly appreciated it. And I loved the exploration in this game, and I adored the combat in this game. It was really, really, really fun.
Well, even the food encourages you to use it too, right? Because like cooking is super easy, and ingredients are everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
but I couldn't convince myself to do it anyway. I was still trying to hoard it for a boss, and then I would come across another campsite and be like, "Oh, well, I should have used all of that, and I didn't." And I just wasted all of my time to get here. And then I would continue on and get in another battle, like, oh, I still shouldn't use it. There might be a boss.
So mechanically, I think what it did is it cut out everything I don't like about this genre. And in the process, cut out most of the stuff you do like about this genre.
I think it tried to force a style of gameplay that is just so antithetical to how I play that my brain still can't fully wrap around it.
Yeah,
like the combo system, like you guys were saying, it runs out at the end of every battle, so you have to use it during that battle or it's gone. But for me, the best combo early on was that healing one, the one that gives you a full heal, and it's essentially for free since it's a stat that you can't use later, right?
Yeah.
But it costs 2. So I refused to use any 1-tier combos ever because I had to get up to that second tier. And then once I got to the second tier, I immediately had to use it to heal, and then I don't have it anymore. So I never looked at any other combos until the very end of the game, and I was like, oh, these look useful. I could have used any of these.
See, I was using like Valir and Zale's whatever it is combo, their tier 1 combo, to break locks all the time, because you'd have like 2 hammers and 2 swords, and that's easy to get with a tier 1.
No, I would just end up dying because I'd be saving up to restore my health.
So I feel like Saturn and I have said our piece. Guy, do you want to give your final thoughts on the gameplay aspect of Sea of Stars?
Yeah, no, I feel like I had like the hybrid experience of both of y'all, where like the exploration and puzzles were pretty easy and straightforward for me, like Saturn, and the combat was pretty easy and straightforward for the most part, like Justin. And so the whole game was just this constant progression for me of simplicity and easiness, but it was interesting and fun, and the way it was presented and done, like just everything about it was enjoyable.
Until the post game, it had such momentum for me.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. Like momentum in a JRPG is unheard of.
See, I didn't start feeling that momentum until the end, until like the very last couple of dungeons. Before that, it felt like such a slog for me.
Well, running back to every campsite after every combat would absolutely feel like a pain in the dick.
And also, I was just exhausted after every small dungeon, just because for me, my experience was that every battle felt like harder than a boss. The bosses felt relatively very easy to me, whereas the random encounters were just kicking my ass left and right. But aside from the difficulty of the combat, my only other issue is not being able to run, which you can if you cheat. It's great.
You know what else you can do? You can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where you can get uncut versions of this show that instead of being an hour and 44 minutes long are 2 hours and 10 minutes long. This is part one.
Okay, fair enough. Most of it was internet issues today.
This is true. There was a lot of internet issues.
Yes.
We do want to thank the following patrons. The guy is going to help us read off, starting with Tiger. What?
He
you
doesn't
are.
have the thing
I
open.
don't have the thing open.
Oh, you don't have it? You didn't open the notes?
You didn't send me the notes.
You have
They're in
access
the
to all of them.
folder.
It's
Oh, I
shared to
forget
you.
that.
Well, then you are excluded as punishment.
Oh, well, fine.
We would like to thank Tiger Driver,
And the new craft.
Stranger Alps,
Sean S.
Robert Vieira Jr.,
Puff Puff, please.
Platform Agnostic.
Pablo, play every copyright-owned music for 10 full seconds.
God, don't. Please don't. Novocaine FS.
And Nick Brown.
Are all the patrons we want to thank for their kind donations to our Patreon. And they tune in next episode for part 2, because we really didn't spoil very much at all. I feel
We
like maybe
spoiled
our
a little,
spoiler,
but-
a little bit, barely any. I feel like our spoiler was overzealous. Even.
There's a few
So,
things that I noticed that we said that I didn't have spoiled for me before they happened in the game.
I
so.
see.
Yeah.
Tipped our hand a little bit. So tune in next episode. Guy's going to be back, and he's going to help us talk about the rest of
It's going
Sea
to
of
help us
Stars,
spoil things.
which is all the story.
I'm so
side
excited.
of things. It's going to be great. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. As always, let us
Let's
clean
clean
together.
together.